All right, let's dive into a topic that honestly causes a ton of anxiety and is just surrounded by myths: the connection between masturbation and erectile dysfunction. Our goal here is to cut through all that noise, separate the myths from the actual medical facts, and give you the real story.
So let's not beat around the bush. This is the question, right? The one urologists hear constantly, especially from younger guys who are really worried about their health. It's a question that's usually packed with fear, so we're going to give you the straight answer right up front.
And there you have it, straight from a medical expert. The short answer is no. A penis is not like a battery that's going to run out of juice. But, and this is a really big but, the full story is a little more complex. So let's unpack how we get from this simple medical fact to the very real problems some guys face.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start by talking about where all this fear comes from. Then we'll get into some basic erection science 101, explore the psychological and habitual connections, pinpoint the real causes of ED, bust some common myths, and then wrap it all up with a clear path to getting things back on track.
You know, in many cultures, there's just so much shame and guilt tied to this topic, and it's mostly fueled by bad information. People are told it'll drain their energy or make them weak, and when you hear that stuff enough, your brain starts to build this powerful link between a totally normal act and the idea that you're somehow damaging yourself, and that can have real psychological effects. So, to really understand why those myths are just plain wrong, we've got to look at the basic science. It's actually pretty simple, and just getting how it works can make a whole lot of that anxiety disappear.
Okay, this is probably the single most important point. An erection is all about blood flow. It is a vascular event. It has nothing to do with muscle strength. This changes everything, doesn't it? You can't weaken it like you would from doing too many reps at the gym. It's all about your circulatory system. Think of it more like plumbing.
And this is the key piece of that plumbing system, the corpora cavernosa. Just picture two chambers inside the penis that are like sponges. When it's time, they fill up with blood, and that's what creates the erection. It's that simple. They are literally designed to fill up and then empty out. So here's the play-by-play. Your brain sends the go signal. Arteries open up to let blood rush in. Those sponges we talked about fill up. And then the veins that would normally let blood out get squeezed shut, trapping the blood inside to keep things firm. And here's the kicker. Your body runs this exact same program during sex and during masturbation. It literally cannot tell the difference. Okay, so if the biology, the hardware, is perfectly sound, where do the problems come from? This is where we get to that big but. It's not about the act itself, but about the indirect links, the habits and the psychology that can get wrapped up with it. Let's look at the first one, performance anxiety. When you're alone, you're usually totally relaxed, right? No pressure. But with a partner, you might suddenly start worrying about how you'll perform. That anxiety releases adrenaline, your fight or flight hormone, which does the exact opposite of what you want. It tightens up your blood vessels and chokes off blood flow. So the problem isn't physical damage, it's a mental stress response.
Now for a really big one in our digital world, porn-induced ED. Basically, your brain can get used to the super intense, always new stimulation from pornography. It's like your brain's reward system gets rewired to expect that level of novelty. Then when you're with a real partner, it can feel, well, underwhelming in comparison. Your body is working fine, but your brain is waiting for a signal that's just not coming. And then there's a physical habit that has a psychological fallout. Some people call it the death grip. If you get used to an overly tight and aggressive grip, you can actually temporarily desensitize the nerve endings. So when you're with a partner, the sensation just doesn't feel as intense. That can lead to anxiety, and you can see how that becomes a vicious cycle.
Okay, so we've officially debunked the direct link and we've explored those tricky indirect ones. Now, let's pivot and look at what the medical community actually points to as the real causes of ED, especially in younger guys.
And here is the usual lineup. A poor lifestyle, too much junk food, not enough exercise. Smoking is a huge one because it directly damages all those tiny blood vessels you need. Then there are metabolic issues like high cholesterol or prediabetes. As we've seen, performance anxiety is a major player. And notice hormonal imbalances are on the list, but they are actually pretty rare, only accounting for about 5 to 10% of cases.
We absolutely have to clear this one up because it causes so much needless worry. We're talking about the refractory period. This is the totally normal, natural recovery time your body needs after ejaculation before it can go again. This is not ED. It's just biology. And that recovery time naturally gets longer as you get older. 100% normal.
All right, it's time for a little rapid-fire round. Let's pit some of the most common myths directly against the clinical reality and hopefully put these fears to bed for good.
Myth number 1. It causes permanent nerve damage. The reality, nerves are literally designed for touch and sensation. You can't wear them out. Myth 2. You're depleting a limited supply of semen. Nope, your body is a factory, not a warehouse. It's always making more. Myth 3. It causes weakness or back pain. The reality is that stuff is almost always linked to things like stress or poor nutrition. And finally, the big one. It changes your penis size or shape. Absolutely not. Size is genetic, full stop.
Now, we get to the most important part. Understanding the problem is great, but knowing how to fix it is what really matters. So let's talk about the practical, actionable things you can actually do. And let's start with a really powerful piece of good news. Because most of these issues are rooted in psychology, bad habits, and lifestyle choices, they are almost always reversible. You're in the driver's seat here. This is not a life sentence.
So here's a 4-step plan that works. 1. The reboot. Try taking a break from porn and masturbation for a month or 2. It helps reset your brain's reward system. 2. Pelvic floor exercises. Things like Kegels can actually improve blood flow and relax tight muscles down there. 3. Lifestyle changes. This is non-negotiable. Quit smoking, get good sleep, exercise, and find ways to manage stress. And 4. Don't be afraid to talk to a professional to work through any deep-seated guilt or anxiety. It can be a game changer.
And hey, if you do decide to see a doctor, what actually happens? Well, they'll probably ask you about morning erections. If you're getting those, it's a great sign that the physical plumbing is working. They might do a special ultrasound to actually watch the blood flow in real time. And they'll likely run some blood tests to check on hormones and blood sugar. It's really just a systematic way to find the root cause.
So if you take only one thing away from all of this, let it be this. Masturbation is a normal, healthy human activity. The real harm, the real damage, almost always comes from the mental baggage that gets attached to it. The guilt, the anxiety, the bad habits. That's the real enemy here, not the act itself.
So now that you've got the science, the final question is for you. What is one small lifestyle change you can make starting today to improve your overall well-being? It could be getting more sleep, going for a walk, or maybe just making a conscious decision to let go of some of that old guilt. The power to make a change is in your hands. So, what's that one thing going to be?